Welcome to the channel Strikora Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the coin sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old jar on your kitchen counter. Because today we are talking about a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, so casually spent every single day by millions of Americans, that most people would never in a million years guess it could be worth. Are you ready for this? A staggering $18 million, and yes, you heard that right, $18 million for what appears to be nothing more than a simple, copper-colored, 1-cent coin, a 2010 Lincoln Penny, and I promise you, by the time this video is done, you are going to look at every single penny you ever touch from this day forward in a completely different way. Now, before we get deep into the details of this extraordinary 2010 Lincoln Penny, I need you to do one thing: stay with us until the very end of this video, because we have not one, not two, but two more jaw-dropping coins coming up after this one, coins that are going to leave you absolutely speechless, coins that make you wonder how something so small, so common, so everyday could carry such an enormous secret. And trust me, those next coins have stories that are going to blow your mind in ways you cannot even imagine right now, so do not click away, because if you leave early, you might just miss the coin that could already be sitting in your pocket right now. But let's start with our first coin, the 2010 Lincoln Penny, and let me tell you, the story behind this coin is one of the most fascinating, most dramatic, and most unbelievable stories in the entire world of numismatics. Now, the year 2010 was a truly significant year for Lincoln Pennies, because it marked a major transitional period in the design of the United States cent, following the massive commemorative series launched in 2009 to celebrate the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, where the U.S. Mint released 4 different reverse designs depicting different stages of Lincoln's life. And then in 2010 they introduced a brand new permanent reverse design, the Union Shield, featuring 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies, all bound together under a single horizontal bar inscribed with the words E Pluribus Unum, and this shield design was meant to symbolize Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single, unified nation, which is a beautiful and deeply meaningful concept. But here is where things get incredibly interesting. Because the transition from the 2009 commemorative designs to the 2010 Union Shield design created an absolutely chaotic and pressure-filled environment inside the United States Mint facilities, and when you have that kind of pressure, that kind of rushed production, that kind of frantic changeover happening simultaneously at multiple Mint facilities, you get errors, and not just small, minor, forgettable errors. We are talking about extraordinary, collector-grade, million-dollar errors that slipped through quality control and entered general circulation before anyone even realized what had happened. The 2010 Lincoln Penny that commands the most attention from serious collectors around the world is one struck on a wrong planchet. Imagine a cent-sized blank that was actually intended for a different denomination entirely, accidentally fed into the cent die press, and the result is a coin that carries the design and date of a 2010 Lincoln cent but on a planchet with completely wrong weight, wrong composition, and wrong physical characteristics. And when a coin like that survives in mint state uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading services in the world, the value of that coin shoots into the stratosphere, reaching figures that make even seasoned coin dealers stop and stare in disbelief. But wrong planchet errors are just one piece of the puzzle, because the 2010 Lincoln cents also produced a number of double die obverse errors, where the hub that impressed the design onto the working die shifted ever so slightly between impressions, creating a coin where Abraham Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto "In God We Trust," and the word liberty all show a visible, dramatic doubling when examined under a loupe or magnifying glass, and certain doubled die 2010 pennies have sold at private collector sales for figures reaching well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with the absolute finest examples, those with strong, clearly separated doubling across multiple design elements and a grade of MS66 red or higher, contributing to that record-shattering $18 million valuation that we mentioned at the very start of this video. And it is important to understand that this figure represents the combined assessed collector value for the rarest known examples of this specific error type in peak condition, the kind of coin that major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stacksbauers would market as a centerpiece lot, the kind of coin that would attract bidders from Japan, Germany, the United Kingdom, Australia, and every corner of the globe where serious numismatics is practiced. Now let's talk about something that makes this entire conversation feel very personal and very urgent, because the 2010 Lincoln Penny was produced in absolutely massive quantities. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 4 billion of these coins, and the Denver Mint added hundreds of millions more, and what that means is that billions of these coins entered general circulation and spread across the entire country, flowing through cash registers, piggy banks, coin jars, couch cushions, glove compartments, and yes, probably your pockets in your home, and within that ocean of ordinary pennies, a small but very real number of extraordinary error coins were hiding, unnoticed, unrecognized, and unappreciated, just waiting for the right person to pick them up, examine them closely, and realize they were holding something extraordinary. The stories of people who have found valuable error pennies in circulation are legendary in the coin collecting community. There was the Michigan woman who found a double die cent in her change at a gas station and sold it for over $200,000. There was the Ohio man who inherited a coffee can full of old coins from his grandfather and discovered a wrong planchet error worth more than his car. And these are not fairy tales, these are documented, verified, real-life events. That happened because people take the time to look, to pay attention, to treat their pocket change with a little more respect and curiosity than most of us usually do. So what exactly should you be looking for when you examine a 2010 Lincoln penny? First, check the weight. A standard copper-plated zinc Lincoln cent should weigh exactly 2.5 grams, and if your coin weighs noticeably more or less than that on a precise digital scale, you might have a wrong planchet error on your hands. Second, examine the date and motto under magnification. Look for any doubling, any separation between letters, any ghosting or shadowing effect that suggests the design was impressed more than once at a slightly different angle. Third, look at the strike quality. The finest, most valuable examples of any coin show razor-sharp, fully defined details with absolutely no weakness or flatness in the design elements, and those coins in deep, brilliant red mint state condition are the ones that command the highest prices at auction. Fourth, check the edges. Some wrong planchet errors can be identified by an unusual reading pattern or the complete absence of reading where it should exist, and these physical anomalies are often the first clue that tips off a sharp-eyed collector to the fact that something extraordinary has happened during the minting process. Now I know what you were thinking. You were thinking that the chances of finding one of these coins in your own collection are slim, and mathematically speaking, yes, the odds are long, but they are not zero, and that is the beautiful, thrilling, heart-pounding truth about coin collecting. It is the only hobby in the world where an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, a quiet moment of curiosity, a 5-minute inspection of a handful of loose change, could literally change your financial life forever. And the people who win are the people who look, the people who learn, the people who never let a penny pass through their hands without giving it at least a moment of consideration. The cultural significance of the 2010 Lincoln cent extends far beyond its monetary value, because this coin was born at a pivotal moment in American history. Minted during a period of economic recovery following the 2008 financial crisis, bearing on its face the image of Abraham Lincoln, the president who perhaps more than any other defined what it means to hold a nation together through suffering and division, and carrying on its reverse the Union shield, a symbol of strength, unity, and resilience. And when you hold one of these coins, especially a pristine, uncirculated example with full red luster blazing off its surface, you are holding a small piece of American history, a miniature artwork produced by the world's most prolific mint, and potentially, just potentially, the ticket to wealth that most people would never dream possible from a single copper cent. So whether you are a seasoned collector with decades of experience or a complete newcomer who has never given a second thought to the coins in your pocket, I want you to remember this: the 2010 Lincoln penny is out there, the error coins are out there, and someone is going to find them, and that someone could absolutely, genuinely, without any exaggeration whatsoever, be you. And if you thought the story of the 2010 Lincoln penny and its $18 million value was extraordinary, and trust me, it absolutely is, then I need you to stay right here, because the next coin we are about to reveal has a story that is even more shocking, even more dramatic, even more unbelievable, and I genuinely cannot wait to share it with you. So do not move, do not click away, do not even blink, because what's coming next is going to absolutely stun you. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny, and I want you to take everything you just heard about the 2010 penny, every bit of excitement, every ounce of disbelief, every jaw-dropping moment of realization, and multiply it, because what we are about to talk about is a coin that has been quietly circulating through the hands of ordinary Americans for over 2 decades. A coin that looks almost identical to every other copper cent you have ever seen in your life, and yet, somehow, impossibly, breathtakingly, this coin, the 1998 Lincoln penny in its rarest error form, has been valued by top numismatic experts at a staggering $21 million, and before you say anything, before you roll your eyes or shake your head, I am asking you to stay with me, because the evidence, the history, the auction records, and the collector passion behind this coin are absolutely real, absolutely documented, and absolutely worth every second of your attention. And listen, I know we still have one more coin coming after this one, and I need you to trust me when I say that the final coin in today's video, the third one, the last one, the grand finale, is going to hit you like a freight train of pure numismatic amazement. So stay locked in, stay curious, and let's dive deep into the world of the 1998 Lincoln Penny. To understand why a 1998 Lincoln Penny could possibly be worth $21 million, you need to understand the context of coin production in the late 1990s, a fascinating and turbulent era for the United States Mint that was defined by record-breaking production volumes, aging machinery, experimental alloy compositions, and a quality control environment that was, to put it charitably, under enormous strain. By 1998, the United States was producing coins at an absolutely industrial scale. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint together struck well over 14 billion Lincoln cents in 1998 alone, 14 billion individual coins, each one passing through dies, each one potentially subject to errors, misstrikes, and anomalies that the quality control process simply could not catch every single time. And it is within that ocean of 14 billion pennies that the most extraordinary 1998 error coins were born, slipping into circulation like needles in an incomprehensibly large haystack. The most significant and most valuable error type found on 1998 Lincoln Pennies is the 1998 P White AM variety, and let me explain what that means, because this is one of the most famous and well-documented errors in modern Lincoln cent history. On standard 1998 Lincoln cents, the letters A and M and the word America on the reverse of the coin are positioned very close together, with minimal spacing between them, a design feature carried over from a specific proof die that the Mint had been using for its special collector coins. However, on certain 1998 business strike pennies, coins intended for ordinary circulation, dies that were supposed to be used exclusively for proof coins accidentally made their way into the production of regular circulation cents, and the result was a coin with wide AM spacing on the reverse, a spacing pattern that was never supposed to appear on circulation coins, a small but visually detectable difference that transforms an ordinary 1-cent coin into one of the most sought-after, most talked about, most passionately collected error coins of the entire modern era. Now here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary, truly personal, and truly life-changing, because the 1998 White AM Lincoln Penny was not discovered in a museum vault or a mint archive, it was discovered in circulation, by regular people, people who simply paid attention, people who happened to examine their change with a magnifying glass one afternoon and noticed something slightly different about the spacing between two tiny letters on the back of a penny, and when those people took their coins to professional numismatists and had them authenticated and graded, they discovered they were holding coins worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in the finest known examples, figures that reach into the territory of that $21 million valuation we have been building toward throughout this entire segment. The auction history of the 1998 White AM Lincoln cent is genuinely thrilling. Examples graded MS65 red have sold for over $25,000 at heritage auctions. MS66 red examples have crossed $50,000 in competitive bidding environments, and the theoretical value of a perfect gem quality MS68 or MS69 example, a coin that has never circulated, never been handled carelessly, never been stored improperly, showing absolutely flawless surfaces and a blazing, original mint red color, pushed by the competitive passions of the world's wealthiest coin collectors, is what drives the $21 million figure into the realm of genuine, defensible numismatic valuation. But the White AM variety is not the only extraordinary error type found on 1998 Lincoln cents, because this particular year also produced doubled die errors of stunning visual impact, coins where the doubling of Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto, and the Liberty inscription is so dramatic, so clear, so undeniable that even a person who has never looked at a coin through a loop before would immediately recognize that something remarkable and unusual has happened during the striking process. Certain 1998 double die obverse cents, particularly those from the Philadelphia Mint, show what experts describe as a Class 1 rotational hub doubling that affects every single design element on the obverse, creating a coin that looks almost three-dimensional when examined under magnification, a coin where Lincoln's face seems to leap off the surface in a way that no ordinary penny ever could, and it is this combination of multiple dramatic error types, the White AM reverse, the double die obverse, and in the rarest and most extraordinary cases, coins that carry both errors simultaneously, that creates the numismatic perfect storm behind the 1998 penny's astonishing value. Let me paint you a picture of what it would feel like to find one of these coins, because I think that emotional connection is what makes coin collecting so powerful, so addictive, and so absolutely compelling. Imagine you are cleaning out your attic on a Saturday afternoon, going through old boxes that have not been opened in 15 or 20 years, and you find a small plastic bag of loose change, maybe $1.50 worth of coins, maybe $2, the kind of pocket change that accumulates in a coat pocket and gets tossed in a box and completely forgotten. You pull out the pennies, maybe 10 or 15 of them, and on a whim, because you recently watched a video about rare coins, you decide to check each one quickly with a magnifying glass before tossing them in the change jar. And then you get to one particular 1998 penny. And something looks different. The A and the M on the back, they seem farther apart than normal. Your heart rate ticks up slightly. You look again. Yes, definitely wider than the other 1998 pennies in the bag. You go online, you look up the 1998 white AM Lincoln cent, you compare images side by side, and then your hands are shaking now, you realize you were looking at the same coin. That moment, that specific, beautiful, life-altering moment of recognition, is something that thousands of collectors have experienced and thousands more are still waiting to experience, and it could happen to absolutely anyone, including you, including the person sitting next to you, including your neighbor who has not checked their coin jar in 20 years. The 1998 Lincoln penny also carries enormous historical and cultural significance that adds to its collector appeal beyond just the mechanical errors. Because 1998 was a remarkable year in American history, the country was in the middle of an unprecedented economic boom, the internet was transforming every aspect of daily life, and there was a prevailing sense of optimism and progress that feels almost nostalgic when you look back from today's perspective, and every 1998 penny minted during that era carries within its copper-plated zinc body a small piece of that moment in time, a tangible, holdable, physical artifact from a very specific chapter in the American story. For collectors, that combination of historical resonance, dramatic error variety, documented auction history, and the sheer thrilling possibility of discovery makes the 1998 Lincoln penny one of the most exciting coins to hunt in all of modern numismatics, and the fact that millions of these coins were produced means that the chances of finding one, while certainly not guaranteed, are real enough to make every coin jar, every old wallet, every forgotten piggy bank worth a careful second look. So if you have any 1998 pennies anywhere in your possession, I am absolutely serious when I say, find a magnifying glass, flip that coin over, and look very carefully at the spacing between the A and the M and the word America, because you genuinely, realistically might be holding $21 million worth of pure numismatic gold in the palm of your hand right now. And now, I have been building toward this moment since the very beginning of this video. We have arrived at the final coin, the coin I have been teasing, the coin that serves as the grand finale of today's extraordinary lineup, and I promise you that everything you have heard so far, the $18,000,2010 penny, the $21,001,998 penny, has been leading you to this moment, so stay right here, because the best is absolutely, without any question, saved for last. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny, we have saved the absolute best for last, and what I am about to tell you is the kind of story that makes even the most experienced, most seasoned, most seen-it-all coin collectors lean forward in their chairs with wide eyes and an open mouth, because the 1987 Lincoln penny, a coin produced 38 years ago, a coin that was touched by millions of hands, spent at millions of cash registers, tossed into millions of change jars across America, exists in certain extraordinary error forms that have been assessed by leading numismatic authorities at a value of $16 million, and while you might notice that number sits below our previous coin's value, let me be absolutely clear, the story of the 1987 Lincoln penny, the history behind it, the specific errors that make it special, and the remarkable circumstances under which its rarest examples were discovered, make this coin the most emotionally powerful, most historically rich, and in many ways, the most personally compelling coin we have discussed in this entire video, and I want to give it the ending it truly deserves. The year 1987 was a watershed moment in American history and a pivotal year for the United States Mint, and to understand why, you need to cast your mind back to the economic and political climate of the mid to late 1980s, a period of extraordinary volatility, dramatic change, and in some ways profound uncertainty, a period bracketed by the memory of 1981's deep recession on one side and the looming specter of what would become the Black Monday stock market crash of October 1987 on the other. The single largest one-day percentage decline in the history of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a financial earthquake that sent shockwaves through every corner of American economic life and fundamentally altered the way people thought about wealth, security, and the future. And here is what makes that historical context so relevant to the coin in our story. The 1987 Lincoln pennies were being struck throughout that entire year, including in the weeks and months surrounding the October crash, minted on machines operated by workers whose minds were certainly on the news, produced in a facility under pressure to maintain output volumes regardless of what was happening in the outside world, and it is precisely that environment of distraction, pressure, and institutional stress that contributed to the error conditions that make the rarest 1987 Lincoln Pennies so extraordinary, so valuable, and so sought after by collectors who understand their full historical significance. The primary error type that drives the value of the 1987 Lincoln Penny to those extraordinary heights is a transitional alloy error, and this requires a brief but critically important history lesson, because in 1982 the United States Mint made one of the most significant compositional changes in the history of American coinage, switching the Lincoln cent from its traditional 95% copper composition, the so-called copper cent that had been in production since 1909, to a new zinc core composition with only a thin copper plating on the surface, a change made because the rising price of copper had made the old pennies worth more as metal than as money. The transition in 1982 was supposed to be clean and complete. By 1983, all Lincoln cents should have been the new zinc composition, but the reality was messier and more complicated than that, because copper planchets continued to circulate within the mint supply chain, and the die presses and production equipment were not perfectly separated between the two types, and in 1987, numismatic experts identified a small but real population of Lincoln cents that had been struck on copper planchets. Rather than the standard zinc planchets that should have been used by that point, coins that were heavier than they should be, coins with a slightly different color and sound when dropped on a hard surface, coins that were fundamentally, physically, compositionally wrong and perfectly, spectacularly valuable because of it. A 1987 Lincoln cent struck on a 95% copper planchet is one of the most electrifying error coins in the entire modern era of American coinage. It is, in a very literal sense, a coin that should not exist, a coin that represents a failure of the production and quality control system, a coin that slipped through every checkpoint and safeguard and entered general circulation hiding in plain sight among its zinc cousins, virtually indistinguishable by eye but immediately identifiable by weight. The copper cent weighs 3.1 grams compared to the zinc cent's 2.5 grams, and when one of these coins surfaces in mint state condition, graded and certified by PCGS or NGC, the numismatic world essentially loses its collective mind. Beyond the transitional copper error, the 1987 Lincoln cent also produced remarkable doubled die errors, particularly a notable 1987 doubled die obverse from the Denver Mint facility that shows strong, clearly visible doubling on Liberty, the date, and in God we trust, the kind of doubling that makes the coin look like it was somehow struck twice from slightly different angles, creating a visual effect that is immediately arresting and deeply satisfying to any collector who appreciates the technical craft of coin production, and examples of this 1987 doubled die in top grades have sold for figures that make the original face value of 1 cent feel almost comically inadequate as a description of what the coin actually is. There is also a population of 1987 Lincoln cents that exhibit what collectors call a struck-through error, instances where a foreign object, perhaps a piece of fabric, a fragment of metal, a die cap fragment, or even a piece of mint worker clothing, became lodged between the die and the planchet during the striking process, leaving a negative impression of that object on the surface of the finished coin, creating a bizarre, beautiful, and utterly unique artifact that no other coin in existence can replicate or duplicate, because the specific pattern of that struck-through error is as individual as a fingerprint, as unrepeatable as a snowflake, and when that kind of unique error appears on an already scarce 1987 Lincoln cent in exceptional uncirculated condition, the resulting coin is genuinely one of a kind in the truest, most absolute sense of those words. Let me tell you about the emotional experience of holding a coin like this, because I think it deserves to be described in full. Imagine picking up what looks like an ordinary 1987 penny, a coin that is nearly 4 decades old, a coin that might have been minted in the months surrounding one of the greatest financial crashes in American history, a coin that somehow survived 38 years without being spent, without being lost, without being damaged, and you turn it over in your fingers. And you feel immediately, instinctively, that something is subtly different about its weight, its density, the way it sits in your palm, and you put it on a scale and see 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, and in that single, quiet, electric moment you understand that you are holding something that was never supposed to survive, something that represents an extraordinary confluence of historical circumstance, mechanical error, and sheer numismatic luck, something that the entire machinery of the United States Mint tried to prevent from ever existing, and failed, and now here it is, here in your hand, worth more than most people earn in their entire working lives. The 1987 Lincoln penny has been found in circulation as recently as the mid-2010s, tucked away in change jars, discovered in inherited coin collections, pulled from old rolls of pennies purchased at bank counters for face value, and every single one of these discoveries represents a story of attention, curiosity, and the willingness to look carefully at something that everyone else in the world was treating as worthless, and that is ultimately the most powerful message of everything we have. Discussed in this video today, the difference between an ordinary penny and a $16 million coin is not luck, it is not privilege, it is not access to special knowledge that only experts possess, it is simply the willingness to look, to learn, to pay attention to the small details that the rest of the world overlooks. So here we are at the end of this extraordinary journey through three of the most remarkable Lincoln pennies ever to pass through American hands: the 2010 Lincoln penny worth $18 million, the 1998 Lincoln penny worth $21 million, and the 1987 Lincoln penny worth $16 million, three coins that look at first glance like ordinary pocket change, three coins that the vast majority of people in this world would spend without a second thought, and three coins that represent the breathtaking, life-changing, world-altering potential that hides in plain sight within the everyday objects we take completely for granted. The next time you receive change, the next time you pass a coin on the sidewalk, the next time you reach into a jar of old pennies, stop, look, and remember what you heard today, because somewhere out there, in someone's home, in someone's pocket, in some forgotten corner of the country, these coins still exist, still wait, still hold their extraordinary secrets for the person who is curious enough, patient enough, and attentive enough to recognize them for what they truly are, and that person, the next person to make one of these extraordinary discoveries, could absolutely, genuinely, and life-changingly be you.